Hello, YouTubeLand. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I hope everybody's doing well. So, how many of you guys are going crazy right now? I mean, with everything that's going on with YouTube right now, it's just getting really crazy. How many weeks until Halloween? I mean, is there a full moon out right now? I don't know. I'm asking you guys because I don't have an answer on this one. I don't know, folks. It's like I woke up and I'm in a Alfred Hitchcock Presents or The Outer Limits or something, but it's just gotten crazy. When we have Vivian Sanchez trashing on Natasha again, I guess Vivian's Peace Bus tour came to an end, huh, folks? And then we have Natasha sticking up for Mrs. P and acting like Mrs. P didn't do anything wrong, and her giving us a lesson on how to behave with one another. Imagine the trash queen giving us advice on how to behave. That's like Ozzy Osbourne telling us not to do drugs. And then we have Mrs. Portland apologizing to Sally Ann and her community like her apology means something and it's going to make a difference. She's always doing that. She'll strike out and do what she does and then turns around and puts out an apology like, the apology is going to wipe everything clean, the slate's clean, and we can start over. But she doesn't realize that you can't take back your words. So, I don't know, it's just crazy. So I guess Mrs. Portland is on her apology tour right now because she's also apologizing to Country Joe for losing her crackers that day and admitting that she got upset because she didn't win a Krama Award. She claims that she's trying really hard to learn her lesson and that she will be a better person. Hang on. Back the bus up. Where have we heard this before? We all know what's going on here. Mrs. Portland has lost some of her support, a lot of her support, and so now she's out shopping for new channels and new people to support her because she's already burned those around her like she always does, and now she's going to worm her way into some other communities. Folks, this is her MO. This is what she always does. She's very predictable, just like Natasha Cooper is. Very predictable. Wherever Mrs. Portland goes, she always wears out her welcome. And it's not like what Natasha says, that we egg her on to get a reaction. No, that's not it at all. When she goes after a man's deceased wife or attacks a woman's disabled grandchild or goes after a mother's lost child, I could keep going on and on and on. Mrs. Portland does some very vile things. And then when we react the way that we do, how dare we do that to her? But she can do that to us, but it's not okay for us to react to what she says and does to any of us. And then you have the Queen of Trash backing her up and giving us a lesson on how we're so disgusting and bad because we don't allow her to do or say anything that she wants, and we should never, ever attack her. But yet, do I remember a time when Natasha pulled out this big machete-type knife and was threatening Mrs. Portland with it? But, hey, that's Natasha, and it's okay for her to behave like that, because after all, she is the trash queen. She is on her throne and is above all of us peasant people. And I also remember Natasha getting Scarlett to do a welfare check. But of course, Natasha says, "Oh, I didn't do that." That's very Manson-like of you, Natasha. Very Manson of you. Yeah, this woman has no right to tell us how to behave. Natasha, just turn around and go into your double wide and sit back down in your recliner chair and put your crown on and make believe that you're the queen. Because you don't hold anything over on us over here. Nothing. And it's funny that you go over on her channel and look at the names in her chat and it's nobody that you recognize. It's all these new people. She's burned everybody, depleted all of their money that she can get out of them. When she's done with them, she gets rid of them, and she gets rid of them in a way that it's going to make a big stink and cause everybody in her chats to feel sorry for her and that she's the victim. And every time she has a turnover of people, the new people just seem to be a little farther down the totem pole, and they're just not quite as bright as the ones before them. And she's kind of scraping the barrel now on these people. Even her content has gotten boring. She had to try harder to try to scam the people back then, but these people, she doesn't have to try all that hard, and you can tell that by looking at the content that she has on her channels. So basically, we have Satan herself telling us how to treat one of her demons, Mrs. Portland. I'm sorry, Natasha, don't tell me how to treat anybody, because you have no room to talk to me about any of that, because you're the worst of the worst. You can paint your picture that you're this nice, loving, honest person. Maybe you have been listening to some of my videos, because you're starting to sound like you're copying some of my words. And Mrs. Portland going after a deceased child and then making the comment, and I quote, "But at least I still have contact with my child." Does that comment kind of sound familiar to you guys? Well, at least I still have my husband. Mrs. Portland, you're the most evil, vile person I know next to Natasha. In fact, you two might as well join forces, because you're both going to be in the same smoky pit. I hope you like hot temperatures, Mrs. Portland, because that's where you're going to wind up. How dare you go after somebody's pain like that? You know what, Mrs. Portland? Yeah, guess what? I still have my children. Where are yours? Where's yours? Huh? I still have my child. I still have both of them. I guess maybe you didn't do a very good job. Those words hurt, don't they, Mrs. Portland? They hurt, don't they? They hurt the same way as the words you spoke to others. And I'm giving you what you dished out so that maybe you can see the pain that you're suffering. That's the same pain you put out to others. You have no right at all to ever put that kind of pain out to anybody. To call yourself a Catholic and a Christian woman, please, that's a far cry from ever being anything of that. Proverbs 6, verses 16 through 19 states, Mrs. Portland, listen very closely. There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. Mrs. Portland, you exhibit all of this. Proverbs 10:18 states, "The one who conceals hatred has lying lips, and whoever utters slander is a fool." Mrs. Portland, you're a liar and you are a fool. Mrs. Portland, you have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting. Meaning, you have been weighed on the balances and have not measured up. Daniel 5, verse 27. Mrs. Portland, a man of God, a pastor, does the work of the Holy Spirit. How can a true work of the Holy Spirit be distinguished from that which is false? Here you go, Mrs. Portland. Listen very close. Number 1, exalts the true Christ. Number 2, opposes Satan's interests. Number 3, points people to the scriptures. Number 4, elevates truth. And number 5, results in love for God and others. Pastor Mills exhibits all 5 of these, Mrs. Portland. What do you exhibit? You exhibit none of these. Here are 5 indicators of an evil and wicked heart, Mrs. Portland. Number 1, evil hearts are experts at creating confusion and contention. Number 2, evil hearts are experts at fooling others with their smooth speech and flattering words. Number 3, evil hearts crave and demand control, and their highest authority is their own self-reference. Number 4, evil hearts play on the sympathies of good-willed people, often trumpeting the grace card. And last but not least, number 5, evil hearts have no conscience nor remorse. Mrs. Portland, you are just like Natasha Cooper. You exhibit all 5 of these. And yes, Natasha Cooper, you have an evil heart too. You're just as evil, if not more evil, than the demon that you're possessing. How dare any of you sit there and try to control us and tell us and point fingers at us. Go back to the caves you dwell in, because we don't want you here. Remember, folks, Satan masquerades as an angel of light. He knows more true doctrine than you or I will ever know. But his heart is wicked. Why? Because although he knows the truth, he does not believe it or live it. When you have Natasha Cooper and Mrs. Portland with all of their religious symbols throughout their home and claiming that they are a Christian, but yet they do not believe it or live it. Folks, I'm not perfect. I make my fair share of mistakes, but I'm always going back to him and asking him to forgive me and to help me to be a better man. Our relationship to Christ is basically the same relationship that we have with our children, or at least what our children have with us. It's a good comparison, folks. Let's say you have 2 children and they both make a mistake. Let's say that they got caught at the local store and they shoplifted and they came home with something and you knew that they didn't have the money to buy it, and so you confront them and they get in trouble, right? Folks, it happens. Any of us that have had children, we know. So you have one child who right away is breaks down and starts crying and saying, "Oh, mommy, oh, daddy, I'm so sorry. And you can tell that their heart is repentant, that they are truly sorry, and they mean what they're saying. And then you have that stubborn second child who says, "Well, what did I do wrong? It's not like they don't have a bunch of it. What's it to them if I have one of them?" And then you explain it to them why it's wrong. And then they come back, "Well, okay, well, I'm sorry." But you can tell that their apology, there's nothing behind it. It doesn't mean anything. You know that they're really not repenting for what they've done. And how do us as parents deal with those 2 different children? I know the one child for me who was really repentive and was truly sorry. Yeah, just like it is with Christ, even though he may forgive us, we still have to suffer the consequences of our actions. And the first child is going to have to suffer something. Maybe I ground them for a couple weeks or something. But the second child, who really wasn't repentive of what actions he did, his consequences are going to be a little more severe. Folks, that's how our relationship is with Christ. Folks, Pastor Mill exhibits love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And trust me, for a man of God to be able to do all of this is not easy, because he gets attacked more than any of us do. Satan is after him harder than any of us. Satan has a lot more to gain by him failing. And Satan will use any tools he can to get at the pastor. Tools like Natasha Cooper. Tools like Mrs. Portland. Going after the pastor and saying the things that you do. That's blasphemy. Again, it totally exhibits what is in their hearts. Their hearts are filled with evilness. Satan dwells within them, and you can see it by their actions. It's clear. We don't have to sit there and strain to see it. It's as clear as night and day. So folks, don't let these people into your lives. Keep them as far away as you can, because they'll only bring harm to you and those that you love. God bless you all. Have a great day and a beautiful, beautiful weekend.